The deal we have with Netflix is unlike anything anyone else has. YouTube has a big place in the future of not just animation, but just media in general. And whoever can crack that is going to have a really big head start against everybody else. We create all this merchandise, and that is now the lion's share of where our money comes from. There was a lot of times when I thought, we're done for, we can't make it through this, and now we're here.
Jasmine Yang, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
So you've got a whole bunch of titles here. You're COO and head of product and development producer at Glitch Productions. Love it. At Glitch, I think you are creating some of the most successful IP in the world right now through what you're doing. Your latest series, The Amazing Digital Circus, I think clocked over 400 million views on YouTube, and it's now also on Netflix. It's extraordinary. I'm so excited to share with people what you're doing and also how you've done it, and particularly how you've worked with YouTube as well to really build your business. So we'll start by you telling me, what do you do?
Glitch Productions is an independent animation studio based in Sydney, Australia, but we do have quite a few employees all around the world. And very simply put, the way we would describe it is we just make cool shit. We make the kind of animations that we really loved growing up. So a lot of the things we make were inspired by either our own hobbies, cartoons we watched growing up, or things we did. As an independent animation studio, we're allowed to do whatever we want. And it turns out that there's a lot of people that are just like us, who are really interested in what we do. Although we still are very primarily an animation studio, as one of my titles implies, we also create our own merchandise. We do our own marketing, distribution. We've gone into some events recently. It's become a full suite of things, everything short of video games at this point.
I just think that is so clever, and I really want to talk about your business model, because I think the way that you're approaching it in terms of having multiple sources of income and not just one is really key to business success in the future. And I love that you went for something that you wanted to see, and it turned out that 400 million people also just love that. I've been talking about powerful niches on the podcast, but that's one heck of a niche. You describe your style of animation as millennial anime. What does that mean?
We were really inspired by, like a lot of people our age, anime while growing up. And anime has a concept known as shonen. So it's a genre as well as a demographic. It means like young man. And it has a lot of things associated with it. People would be familiar with things like Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Naruto. Those are all shonen. And the way that animation is venerated in Japan is very different from the West. In the West, they consider things like, oh, that's a cartoon. That's for kids or something. Over in Japan, animation is just animation. It's just TV. It's just like anything else. It just happens to be drawn. And what that lets them do is that lets them tell a whole bunch of different range of stories. Tends to be a lot more violence. Things are a bit more graphic in anime. They tend to tackle quite a few different social themes or like identity themes. Stuff that for some reason the West has shied away from when it comes to animation. And that's what we've tried to bring through. There's been this big niche in Western animation for the past couple decades where something's either like for kids or is for adults, like your BoJack Horseman and adult sitcoms.
But you sort of sit in the middle.
Yes. Usually our target audience is around like late teens to early 30s. We have quite a lot of violence in our shows, but it's also letting us explore certain themes like mental health issues, existential dread, some of the more serious themes that, again, you don't see a whole lot of in things that are aimed at teenagers here in the West.
The brightness of color and the energy in your shows is amazing. It really is distinct.
Yeah, we've always tried to make it look a little bit different. In the beginning, we were still learning everything and we were doing our best. As we've grown as a studio, and there's some people that have been with us ever since we started, they've developed their skills and they get bored easily and they want to try out something new all the time. Murder Drones looks very different to Amazing Digital Circus. Our next show, Gaslight District, which is upcoming from the stuff we've shown already, is already looking very different from everything else. I think the best way to put it is we have a lot of people here that get bored very easily and want to switch it up quite frequently.
And when you started, a bunch of friends in a garage, like it was pretty humble beginning.
Yeah, so the background of the entire company is the two co-founders who are brothers, Kevin and Luke Witchable. Luke, the younger brother, when he was 13, he started a YouTube channel because he was bored and he thought he had a really funny idea for a YouTube video that he made in Mario 64, an old N64 game using a style called machinima. That did okay, and so he kept making them for whatever reason. He had no intention of becoming famous or becoming rich or becoming big. He just made them for the love of it. And eventually he amassed enough followers to make a career out of it. And that was what funded Glitch at the start. Kevin came on to help him manage all of this business that was starting to happen. And they eventually decided to make a full-form animation. The original YouTube channel was making money. It wasn't making that much money. We weren't like Mr. Beast popular on that channel yet. Still aren't, but we weren't making that kind of money. We were really poor when we first started. We were working out of their living room. We had hired people that had just gotten out of uni. I remember on my first day, there was a dog that belonged to the girlfriend of the CEO at the time, and that dog just peed on the rug, and I had to go clean it up because who else is going to do it?
So glamorous.
There was a lot of times when I thought, we're done for, we can't make it through this, we're about to run out of money, but somehow we just kept struggling through, and now we're here.
So at that point where the brothers decided to make the first animation series, how many followers did they have on YouTube?
So the original channel is called SMG4, and that one had just hit 3 million at the time I joined, which for some people sounds pretty big, but if you're familiar with the YouTube economy, in the grand scheme of things, trying to support like a big team of employees is not feasible. Again, we were like barely scraping by with the ad revenue that was coming from YouTube based off that original channel. When I joined, there was maybe 5 or 6 other people plus the brothers. It was an absolute skeleton crew trying to make an entire season of animation. We had to just keep getting more and more people, try to stretch our resources as much as we feasibly could, until we managed to eventually pump out our first animated series, Metarunner, which did get some support from Epic Games and Screen Australia, very thankfully. And we kept making more.
So you got that bit of support, but then you put it straight onto YouTube, or how did you position that and what happened next?
The Metarunner went up on the SMG4 channel, and that show did okay. We were very proud of what we had done. We thought, wow, we can't believe we managed to finish this thing. Audience reception was good. They liked it. And we were really proud. When it came time to make season 2, we started thinking about whether we should still upload them onto the SMG4 channel. If you're very familiar with the early 2010 style of YouTube humor, it was very silly and just things just wobbling around everywhere. While Metarunner was more polished animation that spans like big stories. And it felt a little inappropriate to have Metarunner on this SMG4 channel. So I actually remember Kevin, Luke, and I sat in a room for about an hour debating whether or not we should create a different channel, which would have 0 subscribers, so effectively trying to start again from scratch, or just tough it through and stay on SMG4. And we finally decided that if we're going to make it, and if we're going to actually have this animation company, it's going to need its own YouTube channel to go up. So we started that. Probably for us, one of the biggest risks we could have taken at the time, because we had no idea if people would migrate from one channel to another. And very thankfully, quite a few did. And we uploaded Metarunner there on what was now the Glitch channel. The first video you can see in our library is a movie compilation of season 1 of Metarunner. And that was the start of the Glitch YouTube channel to where it is today, which I think I stopped paying attention. I think it's 13 million subscribers.
How many years ago was it that you made that brave decision?
I think it was 2020.
Wow. And now you have 100 employees around the world. Pretty phenomenal growth.
Oh, yeah. Admittedly, it's been pretty hard to keep up at times. Sometimes it feels running down a mountain faster and faster to not fall over. But somehow we managed to keep upright this entire time, which I think is really just the entire history of the company, which is somehow we're still here.
Was there a point in which you went from going from paycheck to paycheck to going, I think we're going to be able to do this?
I think it was actually when we got the grant for Metarunner Season 2 from Screen Australia. It was probably the biggest lump sum of money we had gotten in at that point, and we said to ourselves, wow, the government really believes in us enough to this much money, and this gives us a very comfortable buffer space to actually not have to worry about making payroll every month. And then Murder Drones came out. I'm a pessimist. Anytime anything comes out, I always assume the worst. I always think, oh, this is it. We're done. We took too many risks. But very happily, people loved it. And, several million views in its first week. And then, of course, Digital Circus came out, and that was an absolute runaway smash hit. None of us thought it would do as well as it did.
I love hearing that about Screen Australia, because I think that's such a great use of Screen Australia to back a great company that then goes on to have all this incredible success. It's an awesome, awesome story. Let's talk about the Amazing Digital Circus, because it has been this incredible hit for you. And as you say, you're a bit surprised. Tell us first, what's it about?
The Amazing Digital Circus is a story of a woman trapped in a virtual reality with a bunch of other strangers and tormented by a narcissistic AI in a bunch of wacky adventures where they face their own traumas and personal issues. It is also just a very weird show where occasionally a boxing glove will come out of a door and punch someone in the face, and then they start talking about existential dread. It is one of the strangest pitches that we had heard at that point, and that's why we had to greenlight it, because when we heard it, we said, no one else has done anything like this. This is so damn weird. This is either going to absolutely bomb, or it's going to be absolutely loved by a bunch of people. There's no in between. And very thankfully, the coin landed on that other side.
What was your strategy for releasing it?
We did not have a big marketing budget. Our marketing budget was pretty much just half of the salaries of me, Kevin, and Luke, because it was just us spending half our time on trying to figure out how to market this thing when we have no money. So we couldn't buy like billboards, TV ads, all that classic stuff. We turned to social media, made a bunch of teasers that we released. We filmed like trailers that maybe cost us like $50 to buy big cartoon gloves and a top hat. And we very purposely revealed nothing about what the Amazing Digital Circus was about before release. Also, it's really hard to explain what the show actually is in like a 1-minute teaser. So we're just going to do whatever the hell we want. And we're just going to make this thing so weird that people have to watch it just to figure out what the hell it's about. So I think some of those videos are still up, and you can go back and look at them and see, yeah, this has nothing to do with the actual show. This is completely off base.
And were you releasing those on the platform or just generally on YouTube? Were you putting paid behind them or just organic?
We would release them on YouTube. We released a few YouTube shorts. There was a trailer. There was like a teaser beforehand. And of course, we would put them up on all of our socials. So Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. And yeah, it had pretty much the desired effect. People were looking in the comments and going, I don't know what the hell this is, but it looks really cool.
And then with your release, did you release it all at once or weekly?
The Amazing Digital Circus, it is not even finished. We're only up to episode 4 that's been released. Metarunner was under a weekly release. We would work on the entire season and then release one episode at a time, like on a week-to-week basis. That's fine for maybe a streamer that wants to make sure that people are there for long enough to keep their subscription monthly money. For us, one, if we wait until Digital Circus's season is all finished, the show would not have come out for several years. So we had to release the pilot and subsequent episodes early. We pretty much release episodes when they're finished, which is another advantage of being independent. We don't have a quarterly shareholder meeting telling us we have to hit a target. It's finished when it's finished, and animation takes a long time.
And so essentially you're monetizing with ad revenue as you're going along. But when did Netflix come on board, and how does that strategy work with Netflix? Do you just say we're delivering them when we're delivering them?
Effectively, yes. Quite famously, the deal we have with Netflix is unlike anything anyone else has. For starters, we're able to still share our videos on YouTube for free when they also come out on Netflix. They just pretty much approached us after, I think it was after episode 1. It might have been after episode 2. They approached us and asked if we were interested in licensing it out. We said, okay, as long as you don't tell us what to do. They agreed, and it went up. And they asked, when's the next episode coming? And we say, I don't know, we'll let you know when we know.
One of the things that you've done in your business model is you're so direct to market that no matter what platform you're on, your audience is going to go with you.
To some extent, we've actually found that this is exactly the same thing that we've been trying to explain to everyone from our audience to the streamers, is that it doesn't steal from each other. There are audiences that only hang out on YouTube, whether because they don't have a Netflix subscription or they just find it more comfortable to just endlessly scroll through YouTube and listen to the algorithm. And there are other people that watch on Netflix. These are families that have a subscription and they sit down after dinner and watch TV together. They're completely separate, not completely separate, but they are relatively separate audiences. We only started showing our episodes on Netflix around when episode 3 came out, and we didn't actually notice any drop in our audience that we would expect from episode to episode. It was entirely additive. And this is something that we've been trying to champion for quite a long time, which is YouTube has a big place in the future of not just animation, but just media in general. And whoever can crack that is going to have a really big head start against everybody else. We're like living proof that you can use YouTube to find your audience, and there are mainstream audiences out there that you can get through other means.
Have you noticed that your audience has grown from you being on Netflix, or does it work that way?
I would say a little bit. We've met some of our fans occasionally at conventions, and some of them, it's usually the parents that come up and say, oh yeah, I seen your show on Netflix, while kids watch on YouTube. Our main audience is in that like late teens to early 30s who are usually on YouTube, and putting it up on Netflix or other streaming services just widens that range.
And with the back end of YouTube, you have a really comprehensive understanding of who your audience is. So what can you tell us about who they are?
Just naturally, we have a large US audience just due to population that speaks English. But we also have a very large international audience beyond that in a lot of non-English speaking countries. And I think actually one of the big contributors to the success of Digital Circus was how many translations we had up from the day of release. Latin America accounts for around 25% of our viewership. It's really massive. I've seen fans in Latin America. I've seen some Mexican stage plays where they've dressed up as like Digital Circus characters for kids. And we laughed and then said, hey, wait, we didn't approve that. It's cool, but we didn't approve that. We have a pretty big presence in Japan. We have a manga adaptation over there. We were just on a billboard in one of the main shopping areas in Tokyo. We have pop-up stores there. It's just been a really big international audience that I think just really appreciates YouTube as a cheap and easy way to watch something high quality.
And when you say you're in multiple languages, you did that. That's not Netflix doing that for you. You put it into multiple languages before you went up on YouTube.
Yes, I do wear many hats, and I'm also the head of our localization. I have several dubbing teams that I collected over time and work with, and they do fantastic work. They're really smart, and again, also a lot of them are very indie as well. A lot of them are just a grassroots dubbing team that got together and wanted to dub our shows. And so I work with them and we create these translations. And it's really just let us get this very wide spread of fans.
That's amazing. And in terms of the English version, it feels really international. You use multiple accents and it feels like an international piece of work, even though you're an Australian company. I'm assuming that was deliberate. What was you thinking behind presenting the work that way?
I have this massive Google sheet filled with voice actor contacts from everywhere. They just send in audition reels to me saying, hey, can I audition for future shows? And I usually tell them yes. And these people can come from anywhere because I think just like creating videos, voice acting has become very indie. You can buy a microphone that's very good quality for maybe $100. You can take your laptop to a closet and that's your recording booth and off you go. Some of our performances were just recorded underneath a pile of blankets.
Wow, it's so interesting. Can we talk about your business model? Because like you said earlier, you've got a whole lot of different streams of income. Where does your revenue come from and how does that part of things work?
Most of our funding came from the SMG4 YouTube channel and its ad revenue. We had a little bit of merchandise that we sold at the time, but it really was largely that YouTube ad revenue. So we were really beholden to how YouTube decided to pay us that month. And so that was really scary at first. And then, of course, we got some grants from either Screen Australia, Epic Games, or other sponsors. And that started to give us a little breathing room. And then we partnered with a merchandise company to go create more merchandise based off our shows. And that started to pick up a little and started to make up a larger and larger piece of our revenue. And then eventually we went independent on the merchandise and we create all this merchandise. And that is now the lion's share of where our money comes from.
Wow.
It is a very special thing because it's, for me, merchandise is really how our audience pays us. It's our audience showing how much they love our shows enough to get something physical in their home or wear it on themselves and say, I love you guys so much. I'm going to give you money and I'm going to wear your stuff or have your stuff in my house. And I really appreciate that. It's entirely just fans saying that they want the show to succeed. And very thankfully, thanks to them, we managed to.
So if merchandise is such a big part of your revenue now, when you're planning ahead for future work, are you thinking really early on about what merchandise could go along with the show? Does that become part of your planning?
Yes. So just to make it absolutely clear, we never tell the show to adapt to merchandise. There's never a situation where we're like, can you put like a talking animal in the show so we can turn that into toys? We've never done that and we never will do that. But we do think quite far ahead because as the company's matured and our infrastructure has grown better, we've gotten more opportunities to just think further ahead rather than from month to month. So if we have a show coming out in 8 months, I'll be thinking about it 2 months ago, trying to figure out what to make for it and make sure that when that show comes out, fans can show their appreciation and they can buy a plush or a poster or they can show that appreciation for the show.
And they can buy on your website or they can also buy within YouTube?
Yes, so YouTube has a link to our online page and that is our online store that sells the official merchandise. But we do now also license out some products and brands to licensees. For example, Moose Toys, another Australian brand, is actually making the Amazing Digital Circus toys that will be released sometime this year. And that makes up another portion of our income. But we've also started, our products are now appearing in Hot Topic in America. I think they're now appearing in like comic book stores, GameStop.
Are there also books, posters? What's your range?
Yeah, we have posters, we have figurines, we have plushes, we have all manner of apparel. We've made record vinyls. That was a very popular one. We've made comics. We made a comic of Meta Runner, which I wrote. We just keep trying to make new stuff. We occasionally just stop and go, can we make like this weird mug out of someone's face? I don't know, let's try it.
That's amazing. A lot of people are struggling to work out how they can bring YouTube into their business models right now. How do you see YouTube and what do you think's the future there?
YouTube is definitely the future of media consumption, and it's not going to replace the streaming services. I think they're both additive to each other. YouTube is a very good way to get like a mass audience because it's free. And it does have a very powerful algorithm that just feeds you more stuff of what you might like. YouTube is just very good for building an audience. But you can't use it the same way that you publish something on Netflix or Amazon or Binge. You really need to appeal to a sense of community that you have there. And that's what we do, quite personal with our audience. We post behind the scenes stuff all the time. We post glitches and like really messed up images from production that most companies try to hide and cover up, but we post it to our audience because it's really funny to laugh at mistakes that happened. It's the equivalent of an animation blooper. And so we always try to like essentially lower that veil between us and the audience. And it just makes them feel like they can connect to us and the kind of shows that we're trying to create.
Yeah, that sense of community seems like such a strong appeal of YouTube. And everyone I've spoken to who's successful is doing exactly what you're saying. Like they're lifting the veil, they're giving people a sense that they belong to something, that not only do you love the show, but you have direct access to people making it.
Precisely. You're not going to find the director of Arcane responding to people in Netflix comments or something, but we are on Twitter and we share fan art from our fans. We comment on cosplays that we love. We share around amazing fan work that we've seen and tributes because we just love it. And we know that our community is the reason that we managed to get here, and we just want them to feel included.
And when you look at what's changing on YouTube and on other social platforms, what trends are you seeing and how are you preparing for the future and future changes?
I think that we are starting to see this big crossover between YouTube and streaming services, and we're a big part of the first foray into that. There's also been that big move to really short form videos with YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Reels. And we've taken advantage of that as well. And it's just another way for us to connect to our audience. We post a lot of behind the scenes stuff on the short form videos. People really love it. Although we're not like chasing trends, we are paying attention to like, oh, well, YouTube was like the innovation that got us where we are.
Are you doing things like repurposing content you've already got for short form on TikTok?
Yeah, to some extent. Like, for example, we show short snippets of our show, but combine that with behind the scenes footage or like in production footage in order to just show people what's going on there. It also plays a big part of our marketing because sometimes our marketers will just grab some of our plushes and make a silly little skit and post it up and then walk off. And it took them maybe like 20 minutes.
Let's talk about marketing because you say proudly on your website, you do the whole lot. You do the development and you go all the way through to marketing. Why did you make a decision as a company to hold on to that? And what do you think the advantages are?
A big part of it, even today, is just we know our brand. We know who we are. We know who our audience is, and we know how to talk to them. And so we want to do that ourselves. And we have a lot of fun with it. We do weird things like right now on our Twitter page, we're advertising our next show, The Gaslight District, by just messing with our social media page and implying that some dark malevolent force is taking over our account. So we love doing that stuff. And we've managed to find a bunch of very weird people that share our ideas and are very talented and make absolutely amazing marketing videos and ideas and campaigns. For episode 4 of Digital Circus, we made like a fake job application for the fast food restaurant that they work at in that episode. And it's just filled with nonsense.
You know your audience really well. Like you've got the same sense of humor as them. So everything you're doing, for want of a better term, is on brand.
Exactly. It's a pretty common thing that we say, which is, do we like this? Okay, if we like this, then they're going to like it because we are the audience.
That's so interesting. And what's Glitch In?
Glitch In is our membership page. Very similar to Patreon, where people can subscribe for a monthly fee. They get access to a exclusive Discord where they can connect with some of our artists, actually hang out there, post behind the scenes things. People can like get to know our crew and some of our voice actors. We make like blog posts about funny stories that happen during production or little teasers and snippets of what's coming up next. And it's just fun. It was like a little pet project from Luke who created this little Glitch In environment. And our marketers really ran with that and created some absolutely amazing visuals and images and websites. And I guess like playing into the theme of us doing everything super, super weirdly, we could have just made a Patreon and honestly, that would have been perfectly fine. But for some reason, we decided to make this really weird website with a storyline inside of it. A lot of effort, but we really just liked the way it turned out.
So you're building those super fans really through that are willing to pay per month, pay per week?
Yeah, so they pay per month. And again, this is just another way that we go directly to our audience for our income. If our audience likes us enough, they can choose to pay a little extra per month for just some perks and bonuses. And in exchange, we just try to do our best by them.
And do you ever audience test ideas as you're working them?
We don't actually. We learned some very powerful lessons from listening to, for example, I listened to a bunch of talks from the Game Developers Conference, and there was one by the creator of Magic the Gathering who mentioned that audiences are very good at pointing out problems, but not very good at actually identifying what they want. And again, we're the audience, so we focus test on ourselves. If we like it, then we go with it. It's not to say that our audience is bad or anything, or that we don't like talking to our audience. It's just we want to make the thing that we want to make, and we want to make that special and reflect our experience. And that's not really something that can be done by committee, if you know what I mean. We read comments all the time. Like, everyone says don't read YouTube comments, but we do read YouTube comments. We read YouTube comments, Twitter comments. We look through it all. And we love seeing what people are posting. We listen when people are posting some negative things, as people will do in YouTube comments. But we've never focus tested something on an audience and had them rate things and push a button if they liked a certain scene and then edited based on that. That's not how we want to operate. We just make the thing, put it out, and hopefully they like it.
Sounds like you're doing pretty well so far. Are you thinking about AI? Do you have a strategy, a plan? Are you worried?
Yeah, so AI is a really interesting topic. We do not use any generative AI in our shows. The large majority, if not all of our artists, including me, hate generative AI. If anyone has seen my social media presence, they will know that probably every 2 weeks I'll go on an anti-AI tirade. There's just the ethical concerns, not to mention the ecological damage that all those API servers do. But the content stealing is abhorrent and it's not something that we can abide by. I've seen the AI content that is coming out, and I've always known that at a certain point they'd be able to make something that has a certain fidelity. Eventually AI would manage to create something that doesn't look like an eldritch horror. But there's always just something missing from it, and I don't think that will ever actually be replaceable. Because the true appeal of any piece of art is that it came from someone. Someone took time to think about it and put some of their life into a piece of work. And I think that's actually really visible in anything, no matter how good or bad it is. You can see someone's life in a show or a book or a movie. You just don't get that with AI. It's entirely based off guesswork. It's entirely based off just trying to guess what the next thing should be. It's really literally, I think that's like the absolute extension of what it's like if you tried to make something by committee, except you're asking like millions and millions of people to make the most generic thing possible. What I really hate about the trend of generative AI these days is that it's really ruined just the term AI, because there are automation tools that are fantastic. Very famously, Spider-Verse had an AI tool that automatically drew the nose lines on Miles Morales' face. That was trained off their own models, was trained off their own renders, and just took off a large amount of busy work that some poor animator would have had to do otherwise and let them focus on other things. That's a fantastic use of AI. Generative AI has just really poisoned that well. We need just a different term for automation now.
That is such a great point. They are two very different things, aren't they? But we have lumped them all in as one. What opportunities do you think there are for producers in animation right now?
I might be talking out of my ass here, but I think Arcane was a bit of a turning point for English-speaking animation. I think having such a mature piece that was so well written and so unique and so well animated made a lot of people just stop what they're doing and go, what the hell have we been doing this whole time? That plus the double whammy of Spider-Verse, yeah, just really made a lot of animation studios just wonder what they're doing with everything. So I think it is turning, but it is still a relatively small field, and animation is expensive. Not a lot of studios are willing to take a risk on an animation, whether movie or TV series. So it is pretty hard. That said, we made it through with $1 in our pocket and a dream in our heart, and we managed to get here. I do know several indie studios out there that were exactly where we were 5 years ago, and some of them actually Australian as well, and they're making fantastic work. They're really starting to make their name known, building their audiences, and I think that's really where the next wave of producers and studios are going to come from. It's from that indie space.
And I think the fact that you have really gone for a very distinct niche, not a small niche, but you went for after what you loved. It seems to me that kind of being everything to everyone is not a good strategy right now.
No, the lesson I took from the lead designer of Magic the Gathering, which was when he said, if everyone likes your product, but they don't love it, it's going to fail. Which is why we really believed in the Amazing Digital Circus, because, yeah, we looked at it and said, a bunch of people are going to absolutely hate this thing. But the people who like it will love it, and that's what really matters. And YouTube comments will tell you that there are a lot of people who hate our shows. The people who love it really love it. And they're the people that cosplay, they're the people that make fan art, they're the people who won't shut up about our show in front of their friends and force them to watch our show. And these are the people that will buy our merchandise, throwing Glitch in, they'll come up to us at conventions. So those are really the people that are keeping us alive. And we want to keep making shows that they love.
So if someone was starting out into animation right now, what advice would you give them?
Practice, work on your portfolio. School is great. It'll teach you a bunch of skills. You'll meet a bunch of people and you'll get used to working in a work environment. Keep practicing and keep working on your portfolio. You want to do something that makes you stand out. And when you're doing your school assignments, you have 30 people in your year or more that are doing the exact same thing. So you want to be working on something, again, that's unique and special to you, that when someone like me watches it, goes, wow, that's so different. I can't believe they managed to pull that off. I have to talk to this person. Do what feels best. I know that sounds completely cheesy, but just follow your heart. Make whatever you want and just make something.
Yeah, absolutely. I love speaking to you. I'm so impressed with what you're doing. It's so exciting to hear an Australian company doing such incredible international work and having such amazing success. I always finish the podcast asking people to pitch a big idea that they think would make the industry better or offer something new. Jasmine, what's your big idea?
Invest in indie creators. There are so many unique, wonderful, and diverse ideas out there. Sure, go ahead, make another season of Family Guy if you really want to. That's totally fine. We can have both. There are so many different stories that have never had a chance to be told. And if you think that you can't make that show because there's no audience for it, just make the show. The audience will come.
When you're looking at that global audience that you've built, I think that's really great advice for Australia too, because I think we do have that unique voice. And if we really nurture the people who've got it, who are identifying it, and do what's been done for you and get that support just to give you that kickstart, it can pay off big time.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions. Always was, always will be.
This episode was brought to you by Screen Vixens, Expanding Media and Crew HQ. We Interrupt This broadcast is hosted by Julie Eckersley and Kirsty Stark and produced and edited by Leonie Marsh.